want to just use this chart for a moment to tell you a little bit about Firehouse. Actually, the next two charts. I imagine most of you have been to Firehouse. If you've eaten at Firehouse, show of hands. Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much. Without those hands going up, I do not have 901 restaurants, and I'm not standing here on stage. So a great story, steady, consistent growth. You know, growth is imperative for all concepts. I would venture to say that all of you want to grow, need to grow. Does anybody not want to grow? Show of hands. No? No, yes. Yeah. Right, you have to. Growth is imperative. In business, I'm a firm believer, you're either growing or you're dying. You can't keep things status quo. If you have flat sales, well, inflation's eating up your bottom line. It catches up with you. Eventually, I mean, you can only save so many pennies on the bottom. Eventually, you've got to grow the top line. Grow units, grow sales. You've got to grow. There's no other alternative. So we've done a great job of it over years. Very, very steady, and you can see that now we're at 900 and I think actually 902 locations since I sent the map. So great story. We're very disciplined, so we're a little more concentrated in the southeast, but now we're spread out all the way to the west coast and up the northeast and the central parts of the country. So it's great. And I would venture to say that you can't have that kind of success story if you don't have a strong brand. It's a prerequisite. Can't have a lousy brand and grow hundreds of restaurants. You can't do it without having a strong brand. And for Firehouse, we've got some very specific key brand elements that our founders, Robin Soren and Chris Sorensen, put in from the very beginning. Our commitment to great food, the highest quality ingredients. Our flavor profiles haven't changed in 21 years. We've stayed true to that from the beginning. The large portions that we use on the sandwiches, that's a trademark of Firehouse. The atmosphere of the restaurant, when you come in, the fact that we pay a homage to fire departments and increasingly on a broader spectrum, public safety in general. All important parts of our brand, and we could not have grown without that. And again, every successful brand or every successful company has at the heart of it a strong brand. And even if you're a single unit operator, trust me, you have a brand, or you should view it that way, that you have a brand that you've got to cultivate and grow. But having a strong brand is not a guarantee of success. You may be sitting there with what you think is the greatest concept in the world. And for example, let me ask you a question. What is or was the number one brand in film photography? Kodak. Can anybody think anything really negative about Kodak as a brand? There's great brand positive imagery out there. It had over 80% of market share in its day in film. Fuji was a distant second. Over 80% share. Unbelievable, successful company, the strongest brand in their category. And if you're talking about film photography, I would still say the strongest brand that there is. But where is Kodak today? It's a shell of what it was. Chapter 11 at one point a few years ago, virtually a complete collapse. They've now become just a specialty film producer for technical film. You might be surprised to know that they developed digital photography. They have all the original patents for digital photography. So here you have the strongest brand in the world in that category with the potential to be right on the leading edge and dominate what now is just the norm, and they blow it. So having the strongest brand is no guarantee for success, and there's certainly proof of it. I'll bring it a little closer to home. What was the largest restaurant company in the world in about 1970, 1971? Howard Johnson's. In fact, here's a little bit of trivia. Anyone see the movie 2001 Space Odyssey? Show of hands. Right now we're all showing our age. Okay. Oh gosh, films released in 1969, and if you've watched that movie, you may remember a portion of it where Dr. Floyd is flying up to the space station. It's a real long scene. They're playing Strauss's waltzes. They're going through space, 15 minutes. They're almost as long as it took for me to do 50 restaurants. And so he's going up to the space station. And in fact, here's a trivia question. Anybody remember the brand on the space shuttle that was taking him up? You'll remember when I say it. Pan Am. If you've seen it, right? It's another good example. Where's Pan Am today? But here, You have futurist, 1969, thinking about, well, in 32 years, what's going to be the most dominant brand? Well, in the airlines, Pan Am. But when they get to the space station, there's a scene where he's walking on and they go through a restaurant. And what is it? It's Howard Johnson's. Yeah, largest in the world at the time, and now complete collapse. They have 2 restaurants left in, I believe, New York State. Total lack of awareness, failure to understand what was happening in the restaurant industry at that point in time, overtaken by McDonald's in about 1971. Even though Howard Johnson's had a strong brand, was the strongest brand in many respects. And just one last thing I want to leave you a thought when it comes to branding is, would you say that your brand is strong if you saw that? If you saw your brand tattooed to somebody? Harley Davidson. Any more passionate customers in the world, brand enthusiasts? No, they're unbelievable. My gosh, I've died and gone to brand heaven if I see somebody with a Firehouse Subs tattoo on them. Yeah, incredible. But Harley Davidson almost failed. In the 1980s, they decided to adopt basically Japanese styling at the time for motorcycles. They abandoned the hog, everything that brand stood for with their passionate consumers. But a good example how with proper management, culture, they could turn that around, and now they're as strong as they have ever been. So again, branding isn't enough. Every brand has to have another set of dynamics, mechanics, disciplines that they apply that are going to make that brand successful. Every company has to have that, because as I've shown, in the absence of it, you're going to fail. So for Firehouse, it's culture. I mean, you know great culture when you see it. Ritz-Carlton, I have such great respect for Jim and his brand and what they do. They are known for their culture. I'm sure he's going to talk about it. It's on display consistently. We strive for the same type of thing at Firehouse. You go into any business, you know if there's a great culture when you walk in. The minute you walk into a dry cleaner for the first time. A dry cleaner is a business of regulars. I mean, you should recognize everybody that comes into a dry cleaner. You walk in as a new customer, they should realize you're a new customer. But my God, I've never walked into a dry cleaner where anybody's smiling. Please, turn on the air conditioning. Maybe that's at the root of it. But usually lousy culture, even though you should be instantly recognized as a new customer. Well, same thing in our restaurants. When you walk into a Firehouse Subs restaurant, when I walk in, I know within 5-10 seconds, does that restaurant have it or not? So it's critical for our success, and I'll tell you why. I talked about the importance of growth. Well, back in 2010, I put in front of my franchisees a 10-year plan to grow from 371 restaurants at that point to 2,000 restaurants by 2020, 10-year span. I'm proud to say we're very close to the pace that I set at that time. But back in 2010, I made an observation to my franchisees that were in our system, who underneath them had about 6,000 team members. You see, in 2010, we were already very successful as a brand. We had #1 accolades and ratings for food quality, customer service. We were doing great. And we were only doing great because of our people. In the absence of our people's performance, we were nothing. It takes 3 things to build a brand: time, money, and people. Time is finite. We have it all to the same degree. It's how wisely you use it. Money, capital, it doesn't discriminate really where it comes from. It's how wisely you invest it. The third resource is people. You can't succeed without them. None of you run your businesses without great people. Run it successfully without great people. So here we were in 2010, great results, a result of the performance of our people, and I'm telling them that we are going to perform at least as good and ideally better 10 years from now when we're at 2,000 restaurants. And if that is to come true, then our performance in 2020 is dependent upon 4 out of 5 people in 2010 that are complete strangers to me. I have no idea who those other 24,000 people are when I'm sitting there back in 2010 with an aspiration to go to 2,000 restaurants. Complete strangers. Think about that. All of your futures. If you're growing, your future is probably dependent upon people that you don't know. So boy, you've got to be able to articulate what your point of difference is, what your key mechanics are for success. Have people grasp that, understand that from the time they cross the threshold. If you're waiting for them to gather it up by osmosis later on, it's too late. They've welcomed too many first-time guests in the meantime, and you're not going to fail. You're going to fail, and you're not going to capture the traffic, and you're not going to have the customer loyalty and the retention that you need. So you have to be able to articulate it. So for us, For me, the key is we have to make sure people understand our culture when they come on board and that they execute it as quickly as possible. So I have to define it. We define it with 3 elements. The first is our mission statement. And I know mission statements may be a bit cliche-ish at times, but I'm a fervent believer in it. In fact, I've been with Firehouse since 2003. When I came to Firehouse, there was a mission statement. Frankly, it was meaningless. A bunch of business gobbledygook. It really didn't speak to the heart of the brand. Had goals on we'd be number 5 in the industry and different things. Yeah, it didn't mean anything. Maybe it was okay at its time. But I didn't move to change the mission statement until years later. I didn't move to change the mission statement until I myself even really knew what it was going to be that we had to articulate to our teams. And it led to this mission statement. It was something we crafted as a leadership team. To carry on our commitment to and our passion for hearty and flavorful food, heartfelt service, and public safety. If I'm going to be successful, everybody in the organization, down to every cashier, every line worker, has to understand that and embrace it in some way and know that when they walk into the restaurant every day, that's what they're striving to do in everything that they do. And if I'm successful at creating that kind of culture, I win. I win in the marketplace. If I'm number 1 among my competition at those 3 things, that's when I win. But there's a second element to it, and that's our values. Values are critical. If you think about relationships for a moment, in fact, let me draw a comparison between, particularly in a franchise system, comparison between a franchisor-franchisee relationship and a marriage between 2 people. Right? A marriage can survive a lot of things. It can survive differences of hobbies, some different political points of view sometimes. You can have 2 pretty different people in many respects and have a great marriage. But I would venture to say that if that couple does not share values, it is not going to survive. That is the Achilles heel in the relationship, a lack of shared values. Differences, you get lots of differences. Shared values, boom, it's not going to work. And I would say the same thing exists in business relationships and even relationships with our customers. My gosh, Chick-fil-A is a great example of that. Agree with them or not, they stand for something. They have a certain set of core values. They are not bashful about it. They put it out there for their customers. And it helps within their organization. But shared values there, agree with them or not, very, very important. So I know that if I've got everybody on my team sharing these values, that's my greatest chance of success working together. Because we see things the same way. We can disagree on technical elements of the business and so on, but when we share these values, we really are successful. I want to talk about one for a moment. I want to elaborate on it because it really applies to the restaurant and the hotel industry, and it's staying customer focused. All of these are important, but I get the most passionate, frankly, about staying customer focused. Because as you all know, without your customers, you have nothing. When it comes to your financial well-being, you have nothing. Absolutely nothing. The inability to pay off your business loan, to put food on the table at home, to make a car payment. No. If that customer doesn't make that elective choice, remember, nobody's put a gun to their head saying they've got to come to your place of business. If they don't make that conscious decision when they have so many options out there to go to your place, you have nothing. So your whole reason, your whole mission in life is to do everything you can to attract and retain those people at every turn. You start taking customers for granted, boy, you're on the road to ruin. So when we think about our customers, we say, look, the one that comes in in the morning at 10:30 when they open the door is just as important as the person that comes in late at night. Back in 2011, I went out on the road to do crew rallies. Myself, the founders, other team members, we addressed thousands of crew members over the course of a few months that year. And I would ask the crew members in the audience, in fact, I'll ask this audience, there's a lot of restaurateurs and hoteliers, how many of you at some point in your careers have worked a closing crew, closed down your operation at the end of the night? Most of you, all right. So imagine, I'll put us in a Firehouse Subs restaurant. Imagine it's like just a minute before closing. And it's you and 2 buddies. Imagine you're about 20 years old. You and 2 buddies, and you've done everything you shouldn't do tonight. You've gone ahead and closed down equipment early. You take a lot of product off your cold line. You put it back in the back. You leave just enough product in case maybe 1 or 2 people walk in. And you've put that on some paper wrap so you don't have to clean underneath it. You can just take it. Right? You've sent up the universal sign of we're closed, which is you've put the chairs up on the table. And so you can mop early and get it done. Right? And why? Because you and your two buddies tonight meet three other buddies a mile down the road in the parking lot of Walmart because somebody went ahead and got a six-pack and you're going to split it down there. So you're getting out tonight in 15 minutes. You're out of here. Well, it's right at close. And all of a sudden you see a customer opening the door. And what's your reaction? Please, if you're going to get something, at least take it to go. Don't mess up my dining room. Well, you don't know what's going on in the life of that person as walking in the door right at close. You know, for all you know, they spent the last 12 hours at the bedside of a dying relative at a hospital down the street. And they never got up, afraid that their loved one might pass while they were gone. And they stayed there all day. They never have anything to eat. They finally get up. Visiting hours are over. They get in their car and they think, my gosh, I've not eaten all day. And you know, I'm going to pass a Firehouse on the way home. And I love Firehouse. I know they close at 9, but maybe if I hurry, I'll get there. And they rush, they pull in the parking lot, they look, it's seconds before 9, they think, oh my gosh, I just made it. And on what may be the worst day of their life, they're reaching for that door, and as they go in, they get greeted by, go away. I mean, you see the body language, you know it. I mean, every customer is critical. You know, it frustrates me in this industry when our industry is maligned and people talk about minimum wage and what we pay people and so on. I could go on ad nauseum about that. But we give so many things to the people who work in our business. And if there is even just one thing of value that I give them besides their paycheck, it's the knowledge that on any given day, they've got the opportunity to be the best thing that happens to anyone. And frankly, from our hourly employees on up to us, if we carry that perspective on our lives, that in any given day, in every single interaction, we've got the opportunity to be the best thing that happens to someone, the people we're interacting with. What my wife right now is sitting home saying, yeah, Don, let's apply that there. Anyway, yeah, hey, boy, would we be a lot better off in our business, a lot better off in our personal lives. All right, excuse me while I glance at the watch because Jim is fantastic and I'm not going to cut into Jim's time. So for us defining our culture, we have our mission statement, we have our values, but then I'm a firm believer that you need some really good, what I'll call tactical direction for your team. Franchise candidates will say, oh, okay, Don, I get it. You know, mission statement's 35,000 foot level and your values, I'm at 20,000 feet. But what do I have to do down on the ground, brass tacks, to be successful at this business? Well, long ago, I articulated it for them. And the items that are on this chart are in order of importance from bottom to top. So it starts fundamentally with people and culture. If you don't have a great team, if you don't understand your culture and execute it in your business, almost forget about everything else. It's going to become irrelevant. Your business is not going to, it may be successful at some level, but it's certainly not going to be optimized and as good as it could be. And then when you have that great team of people and that culture embedded, your number one mission after that is to focus on execution. You should be pursuing perfection. That's a lofty goal. And I would venture to say, in our industries, you may never achieve it. People are human. They make mistakes. It happens. But I believe that it's the pursuit of perfection that makes you great, that produces excellence. Now, in an industry where mistakes happen, of course, the real key is how you recover from those mistakes, how you can make some of your most fervent, loyal guests out of people that you've wronged in some way, in inaccurate order, or any number of things. But by your TLC on how you recover them, in some respects, it's a blessing. I've been given a chance to interact with a customer who otherwise might have just had a routine experience, come and gone, and I never made that personal touch. They come to me with a problem. Wow, I've got a chance to really win this person over. So look at it as an opportunity versus a problem. The third level is profitability. I trust that the hotel business shares with this with the restaurant business. It's a penny business. I mean, you have to work for every cent. I'm very mindful of what it takes to bring a penny, a dollar to the bottom line. And we coach our franchisees, our team members, be frugal. Frugal is not a dirty word. You've got to be really discerning on where you put your hard-earned money, especially if you have aspirations to grow. Every dollar spent frivolously somewhere on an unneeded expense, that's $1 you're further away from going to the bank and getting the loan for the next restaurant or the next capital investment. Every dollar ill spent has to be replaced in some form or fashion. And it's a real shame if people personally are squandering it. I don't have sympathy for business owners who complain about the state of their business or their financial condition when, frankly, they're making really bad decisions on what they do with the profit and the wealth from their business. That's a darn shame. I'll just speak about it in terms of Firehouse. Franchisees, a franchisee who perhaps can't meet their development plan or move on, but I know they didn't hesitate to go out and get a Mercedes or some other thing. Boy, you're building a business. The business comes first, period. You'll get your reward sometime, but if you really want to build a successful business, be frugal, keep your money in the business, be focused on your goals and objectives, reward your people. Again, you aren't successful without them. Strip away the people, you have nothing. Your wealth is gone, your business is gone. So keep your priorities straight with what you do with your wealth. And then the three things above that all have to do with raising sales, raising the top line, because we've got to grow. You can only squeeze so much on the bottom line through operational excellence and so on. We start with community because I'm a fervent believer that giving back to your community is a far more effective way to build your business and loyalty than just traditional marketing. We have our Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation where we're devoted to raising money and for the purpose of purchasing equipment for first responders. We've raised and donated, we've given over $14 million of equipment now to fire departments, police departments, entities all around the country. And what we've empirically proven over time is that the restaurants that are most engaged in those efforts have much higher sales than those that are not. I wish I had time today, but I don't, to go through the numbers, but it's just a proven fact. So do that first and foremost. And then you can talk about local store marketing and traditional marketing to help build your business. Now, those are the franchisees' key for success. I also have our keys for success as the franchisor, because you're in two separate businesses. You have the franchisee's business, you have the franchisor's business. And for the sake of time, I can't get into a lot of detail, but it's very important. And by the way, I'd be happy to share this presentation with anybody. If you want to drop me an email, it's dfox@firehousesubs.com. Happy to send it to you. But we've got our disciplines, and in that order of importance. I'm just going to, a lot of them are obvious. I just want to hit on one before I finish up. On the very bottom, it says enforce standards and inspire awesome performance. Recently, up until only about a year ago, it used to say enforce standards and expect awesome performance. I mean, think about it for a moment. I have franchisees who own their businesses. I know that and they should know that if they perform at a truly excellent level, go above and beyond in delivering great service, they're going to be the beneficiaries of it. They'll have higher sales, higher profits. They should be. And I used to expect them to go ahead and perform at a superior or awesome level. But then I had a bit of an epiphany, and I said, it's not enough for me to just expect it of them, as logical as it is that they should apply that to themselves. I said, no, expecting is passive. Just for me sitting back and thinking, well, assuming they're going to do the right thing or somehow just have this epiphany that they should do it. No, I said, you produce change by action. I said, no, I've got to take on the responsibility of inspiring people to rise to a higher level of performance and to really be awesome. So we do very concrete things around that. The program I'm most proud of, we started it now almost 2 years ago. We call it our Awesome Awards. Every week I have people in our headquarters team look at every piece of customer feedback that comes to us. That's hundreds a week of customer comments that come in. And we're looking for examples of where crew members have done something truly above and beyond the call. And we find something virtually every week. And when we do, I or one of my team members will visit that restaurant. They don't know why we're coming. They just know that we're going to show up for a visit, and they assemble as many of the crew members as they can. And when we go there, we recognize the person who did this awesome deed. And I come armed with a gift, a thank you card with a $50 bill in it for every single member of the crew. Not just the person who did the deed, but for everybody. They weren't even my employees or my franchisees' employees. But I'm a firm believer, being the optimist that I am, that any one of those people could have been recognized for that one thing that person did. It just happened to be that they were the one that somebody wrote about. But they work They exist in a culture in that restaurant that gave them permission to go above and beyond and do that. So I celebrate that with everybody there. And then we publish those stories out in a newsletter to our entire system so that they see what type of actions it took to do it. We didn't do that as a contest. We didn't put out there. No, we just go out and do it. So it's as unexpected for them being the recipient of it as it was for the customer who was the recipient of their actions. Right. But there's a money slide at the end that's great. And I say, with what we're doing, have fun at the end of the day, or what else are we here for?